Hello, and welcome to the Porsche 928 S4 walkaround. Before I begin to tell you about the finest, most sophisticated, highest performing sports car made by Porsche, I want to introduce you to a powerful technique for selling Porsches: anecdotal selling. Anecdotes are stories, in our case brief stories, that illustrate special Porsche qualities. For example, I'm sure you've started a 911 demonstration drive with the prospect asking, "Why the ignition switch on the left?" The answer lies in the story of the famous running start at Le Mans. The drivers lined up on one side of the track, their cars in position on the other side. When the starter dropped his flag, drivers would sprint to their cars, start their engines, and go. The Porsche driver would get a slight edge by starting his engine with his left hand while shifting into first with his right. At Porsche, each little edge counts. Great, but how will that little anecdote help you sell more Porsches? Well, let's look at it a little closer. What does that story tell us about Porsche? Several things. Porsches are designed for racing, racetrack proven, and the technology ends up in the car. It doesn't get left on the track. Porsche goes beyond the ordinary way of doing things, ignition on the right in this case, to give our cars and drivers a competitive edge. More to the point, it's a story that only you, the Porsche sales representative, can tell. Everyone loves a good story, and we at Porsche have more stories to tell than anyone else. Stories that fit Porsche. Anecdotes that build and enhance the Porsche mystique. Anecdotes that are easy for you and your customer to remember. Anecdotes that will hold your prospect's attention and give you control of the selling situation. The result will be a captive audience eager to know more. And to help you have more to tell is why we're here. We've come up with 25 key points common to all Porsches. For example, all Porsches share an endurance racing heritage. We've tied each point to a specific position on the car, and we'll be giving you anecdotes or stories that you can share with your prospect. Together with other information you already know and present, you can use these 25 key points to build value in every Porsche you sell, thereby increasing your sales and profits. Now let's get to the business at hand. The Porsche 928 S4, the flagship of the fleet, Porsche's finest. When presenting any Porsche, it's important to get your prospect involved with the car. Have them get close to the car and touch it. Feel the smooth finish, the perfectly aligned seams. Ask them to describe how it feels. Get a dialogue going. You may want to use this opportunity to continue to qualify the prospect. Find out if they're an exclusivity, performance, or luxury buyer. This will influence the choice of anecdotes you use in your presentation. Begin by having your prospect step back and take an overall look at the car. 928 S4 in profile. Design world's best sports car. Exclusive. Each Porsche the most. At the profile position, we want to lay the groundwork for what follows. We have 3 key points to make here. First, we want to point out that Porsche's goal was to design the world's best sports car, the flagship of the fleet. What they've ended up with in this 928 S4, the 4th generation of the 928, first introduced in 1978, is a car that evokes the form and grace of an athlete, a car with the stamina and power expected of a world-class athlete, a car with the heart and soul of a champion, which is to be expected from a car that shares the Porsche heritage, a heritage reflected in the 928 styling, performance, and quality. When we at Porsche talk about heritage, it's not an advertising ploy or some neat marketing gimmick. It's a fact. Our heritage is bred in, not added on. Let me give you an example. When Dr. Ferry Porsche designed the first Porsche sports car, the 356, he didn't do extensive market research or try to identify a niche to be filled. He simply built the car he wanted to drive and own. A fun, high-performance sports car that was durable and reliable. You might say he designed the first sports car built for the owner and driver. The 928 continues that tradition. It's designed to uncompromising standards by Porsche engineers to be driven and enjoyed. You might say that the Porsche engineers built the car they wanted to drive and own. A car that typifies the Porsche design mandate. Form follows function. Exclusivity, our next key point, traditionally draws people to Porsche. Just how exclusive is a Porsche? Well, in a statistically perfect world, after you see your first 928 on the road, you wouldn't see another until 5,000 other cars have gone by, even if that first 928 was 10 years old. Porsche sales represent only 0.2% of all cars sold in the U.S., and 928s represent only 10% of all Porsche sales. Talk about exclusive. The third key point, each Porsche is the most. The world's motor press has labeled each Porsche the 944, the most copied, the benchmark, the 911, the most identifiable, the classic sports car, and the 928, the most sophisticated, the best in the world. Now, you could do as I have just done and list the key points for your prospect. Or you could tell him a story of why the 928 is still called the finest car in the world 10 years after its introduction. Professor Ferry Porsche took an intense interest in the 928 project. There's a story that illustrates how devoted Porsche was to being certain the 928 would be all that the finest Porsche could be, that it would follow admirably in the long tradition of excellence set by the Type 356 and 911. Professor Ferry Porsche followed the Porsche 928's development with intense interest. When the first mock-up was presented to Professor Porsche in May 1972, it was rolled outdoors to allow viewing from many angles and distances. Numerous engineers and designers gathered around to see the new design. As the afternoon wore on, the others gradually drifted away, until only Professor Porsche remained. It began to rain, but the famous engineer-designer continued to mull the new design, a solitary figure in his traditional checked driver's hat and trench coat. For hours he moved around and around the car, kneeling down occasionally, moving in closer and backing away, studying it carefully. The next day, Professor Porsche gave the 928 project manager detailed suggestions on how to improve the design. So extensive were his suggestions that it took another 2 years before the engineers were able to produce a design meeting Dr. Porsche's tough standards. Remember, our 25 key points and the anecdotes that accompany them can be used with all Porsche models. The story of Dr. Porsche is not just a 928 anecdote. It illustrates the dedication of the people behind all Porsches. The 928 S4 hood closed. Classic lineage. Positioned in front of the 928 S4 with its hood closed, you have a good opportunity to show your prospect the classic lineage of all Porsches, the strong basic design elements that go back to the first classic Porsche, the 356. First, get your prospect to step back from the car and get down low to see how sleek this Porsche looks. Back on your feet, you may want to take your prospect over to a nearby 911 and do the same thing so that he can see the low sloping nose and the fluid aerodynamic lines of another Porsche. Also, note how each Porsche has 2+2 seating and a fastback profile. We've gathered together all the information we're covering here and more in our Porsche Marketing Reference Guide and our 1989 Fact Book. Remember, this tape is no substitute for a careful study of these important and informative books. Let's go on to our next position. The 928 S4 hood open. Endurance racing heritage. Uncompromised manufacturing. Low maintenance, high performance. Durability and reliability. Before we look into Porsche's phenomenal engine technology, I want to point out several examples of the engineering that you'll find throughout the 928 S4. First, Porsche found an innovative way to lower the car's drag coefficient, make it more slippery in the airstream. Knowing that an open grille creates some turbulence, they fitted the S4 with shuttered air inlets so that the grille is open only when the car really needs cool air. In other words, they optimized the trade-off between cooling efficiency and aerodynamic efficiency. An example of something called systems engineering, which we'll explore in more detail later. You can feel the shutters here. Now, should the system ever malfunction, which isn't likely when you learn how Porsche tests everything so thoroughly, this knob is easily accessed for manual operation of the flaps. Each time I open the hood of a 928, I'm impressed by the neat, clean look of the engine and how snugly this massive power plant fits into the engine compartment. Reflect for a moment on Porsche's design goals. A high-performance, low-maintenance, lightweight engine offering exceptional response and good fuel economy. The solution is right here, an alloy V8 utilizing advanced technology to produce a power plant unmatched in the industry. The dual resonant induction chamber design allows maximum performance across the full RPM range. At 3,500 RPM, this butterfly valve is fully opened and closed again at 4,500. This results in a dual peaked torque curve at 3,000 and 4,000 RPMs. Before we go any further, I want to remind you to check your PMRG and fact book for specific information about engine features and specifications. As many of you know, Porsche has dominated endurance racing events since the 1950s, when the 356 was called the Giant Killer. These little cars won over their more powerful opponents because of their exceptional durability, fine handling, and excellent brakes. Porsche races to learn and to prove the rightness of their designs before including them in production models. Once included, they are proven again on the racetrack as production models. Porsches are marathoners, not sprinters, superior endurance racers. The benefit to the Porsche owner is that they are designed to go long distances at high speeds under great stress and still finish strong. An example of Porsche's racing heritage, the Porsche-developed TAG Formula One turbocharged engine. When WEISSACH engineers first tested this engine, they thought the dynamometer was broken. It was indicating nearly 1,000 horsepower from a 1.5-liter engine. The dynamometer was not broken. Team McLaren proved that with 12 victories in 16 races using the TAG engine in its first season. The engine also provided Porsche engineers with important knowledge they applied in designing their street cars. In this case, the four-valve technology of the TAG engine was used in designing the revised 928 four-valve per-cylinder engine. When we at Porsche speak of our uncompromised manufacturing, it's not just idle talk. Let's take a brief look inside the Porsche works at Zuffenhausen. All Porsche engines are built to the highest performance standards in Zuffenhausen. A special laser-equipped calibration lab monitors sample engine parts, even going so far as to check and double-check first holes drilled by new drill bits. Built to precise, close tolerances, each engine is nevertheless bench-tested for at least 30 minutes to ensure its performance, including running the engine up to its red line for a few minutes. And Porsche engines perform well because the engine assemblers are graded on the performance of their engines. Note the yellow and red checkpoints on the fender brace bar. Those were made by two quality inspectors who double and triple checked the worker who installed the support. A common practice used at Porsche to check more than 100 points on the 928 S4. Not surprising when you consider that 1 in 8 employees at Zuffenhausen is in quality control. Use what we have just shown you to create your own tour of the factory story for your prospect. All Porsches are known for their high performance, but at what cost? A low one indeed. For example, Porsche recommends oil changes on the 928 at 15,000 miles. 15,000 miles, that's a long way to go on 8 quarts of oil. Some prospects have a hard time believing it can be done, so show them. Porsche's industry-leading 15,000-mile oil change interval is a direct result of Porsche's racing experience. The oil in Porsche engines doesn't need to be changed as often because it doesn't break down from heat or get dirty as fast. It stays cooler longer because there's more of it to circulate than in other V8s. The aluminum alloy engine is more effectively cooled by its water, and there's a large oil cooler. One of these vials contains oil that's been in a Porsche engine for about 15,000 miles. The other, new oil. Not a bad picture. If your prospect still doesn't see the light, just tell him that the 928 is an exotic car with commuter car maintenance requirements. Other routine maintenance is done every 30 and 60,000 miles. One of the key differences between Porsches and other automobiles is the almost incredible durability inherent in all Porsches. This is a direct result of the racing heritage we talked about earlier. And behind this heritage is a much deeper heritage, that of the Porsche engineer. Ever since the original Dr. Ferdinand Porsche hired his first mechanic to build an indestructible four-cylinder engine for him, it's been the dream of every Porsche engineer to test his designs flat out on the Autobahn all day without a care. Today, Porsche backs up that dream with continuing durability testing programs. They pick several cars of each Porsche model and drive them mercilessly, much harder than any customer is ever likely to. 50,000 miles almost nonstop in normal city traffic, on the German Autobahns at varying speeds, and even flat out hour after hour at special high-speed test tracks. And afterwards, Porsche tears down each car to see what held up and what didn't. Then Porsche directs the engineers to improve what can be improved. To our knowledge, no one else even comes close to this kind of durability and reliability testing. And sometimes Porsche's customers continue the durability testing where the factory leaves off. One businessman in Germany exploited his 928's combined top speed, durability, and cruising range qualities so effectively that he logged better than 305,000 trouble-free miles in just 3 years. Thinking his performance was exceptional, he offered to sell his car to the Porsche Museum, but was told to keep it and enjoy it, because that kind of rugged durability is expected. Let's be honest, it's great to win endurance race after endurance race, but in the real world, there's no pit crew or team of engineers looking after your car. Having won at Le Mans the previous year, averaging about 143 miles an hour, Porsche engineers wondered if they could better that mark using a stock 928. At that time, top speed in the 928 was 150 miles an hour. This attempt would be a real test of the car, as it would have to go flat out for 24 hours. The huge high-speed test track at Nardo in southern Italy was reserved, and a 928 driven to the track. That's right, driven, not trucked. Remember, we're talking Porsche here. A team of long-distance drivers took to the track, and the test was on. Things went so well, the car was so stable and comfortable at high speed, that the drivers listened to the stereo as they made motoring history. The 928 beat the Le Mans record by better than 13 miles an hour, also proving along the way what Porsche has always claimed. Our top speed is our cruising speed. There was one slight problem. Someone forgot to secure the dipstick, causing a quart of oil to be lost. The anecdotes we're sharing with you come from a variety of sources. Stories come from Porsche's rich heritage of engineering and design superiority, racing successes, and high-quality manufacturing. They come also from Porsche employees, both here and in Germany, books, and magazine articles. But you don't have to limit yourself to the stories we give you. Develop your own. Get stories from your colleagues at the dealership in the sales and service departments. Another great source is your customers. We all have our own favorite Porsche story. Use yours. The more anecdotes you gather, the easier it will be to build value in every Porsche you sell. The 928 S4 right front. Designed for European driving conditions. Exceptional active safety capabilities. Systems engineering. Exceptional brakes. Think for a minute about how these cars are driven in Germany. What are European driving conditions like? Porsches must be equally at home on the no-speed-limit autobahns and twisty, narrow back roads. In Europe, Porsche drivers face congested stop-and-go city streets as bad as any here, even worse in most cases. After all, most European cities were well established centuries before cars were invented. All Porsches are designed for these tough European driving conditions. Porsche provides each owner with an exceptional performance envelope of safety. At Porsche, exceptional active safety capabilities are built into every car, not added on. Active safety is the ability of the car and the driver together to avoid an accident. Active safety has 4 components: excellent visibility, responsive acceleration, balanced handling, and exceptional brakes. Let's take a look at them here on the 928. As you can see, the low sloping hood, small pillars, and large glass area provide excellent visibility. Sometimes it's best to avoid an accident by quickly getting away from it. In that case, the 928's responsive acceleration is just the ticket. The 928's transaxle design provides excellent balance and handling. Should a quick lane change be needed, this car is up to the task. When you need to stop quickly, Porsche's standard setting brakes get the job done fast. The next key point we want to cover here is Porsche's systems engineering. You could say Porsche wrote the book on systems engineering, the science of making certain each part works well within its system and with all other parts in that system. To better understand how systems engineering works, let's compare it to a great symphony orchestra. What separates a great symphony orchestra from an average one is usually the vision of the master conductor. He ties together the skillful playing of the separate musicians into a cohesive whole. The philosophy behind Porsche's systems engineering is much the same. First, get the best performance from each individual part, then blend them together to form a whole which is greater than the sum of its parts. The suspension system is a good example. The tires, wheels, springs, shocks, bushings, and seats work together as a system. Each component has been optimized to work its best and to bring it in harmony with other components in the system. A specific example, the Porsche wheel design. Some customers have asked why Porsche sticks with the same wheel year after year. That's easy. As Porsche's director of styling says, to change is easy. To improve is much more difficult. At Porsche, we want to get better each year, not just change. And you can tell your prospect that this philosophy protects his investment because a Porsche won't age due to annual cosmetic changes. Now let's talk about Porsche's exceptional brakes. Better yet, let's let the facts do the talking for us. Road and Track recorded the shortest stopping distances of any production car they'd ever tested with a 928. More facts about Porsche's exceptional brakes, for example, the state-of-the-art ABS system, are available in your PMRG. The all-around athletic abilities inherent in all Porsches were brought home recently when a PCNA manager visited Zuffenhausen. It was January 1986, just before Porsche introduced the 924S. His PAG counterpart loaned him a 924S with automatic transmission to experience the new car in European driving conditions. At first, the American felt some disappointment. A 924S automatic? How much fun can an automatic 924S be to drive on the Autobahn, where there are no speed limits? The Autobahn around Stuttgart typically has 3 lanes each direction: the inside lane for trucks and slow-moving traffic, the middle lane for faster cars, and the outside lane for passing and for the fastest cars, where speeds of 120 to 150 miles an hour are routine. Shortly after entering the Autobahn, the traffic cleared. The American let a few more of the 924's horses out and was soon traveling along at good speed, about 85 miles an hour, in the middle lane. Surprised at how solid the little 924S felt, he punched it and was even more surprised at how quickly the speed built. He checked his mirrors to be sure the outside Porsche lane was clear, that there wasn't a speck on the horizon behind him that could rapidly close the gap, and then pulled into the fast lane. The speed built: 90 miles an hour, 100, 110, 120, and finally over 130 miles an hour. Truly life in the fast lane. Suddenly, a small, underpowered sedan veered out of the middle lane to pass a slow-moving truck and directly into the path of the 924. The cars were closing at perhaps 80 miles an hour, better than 100 feet per second. At this point, the American was no longer interested in how fast the Porsche would go. He was concerned with how fast it would stop. He nailed the brakes, simultaneously flicking the steering wheel to the right to shift into an adjacent lane to avoid the small sedan. He had just experienced how European driving conditions have helped develop not only Porsche's incredible acceleration and top speed, but also their active safety capabilities. He had seen the little sedan's quick movement through Porsche's great visibility, and while responsive acceleration was not the safety choice here, he used the Porsche's excellent braking and handling capabilities to avoid an accident. The advantages of having such a sports car in the U.S. with our lower speed limits are obvious. The margin of safety couldn't be higher. Remember that the 25 key points we're reviewing are valid for all Porsches. Our 25 key points are designed to be used for any Porsche that you present, to help you build value in all our cars, and most importantly, to help you increase your sales and profits. Now let's move to the next position. The 928 S4 passenger side. Passive safety superiority. Exceptional body quality assurance. Exceptional handling capability. Porsche understands that in the real world, accidents are unavoidable. Therefore, Porsche is committed to passive as well as active safety and to giving each owner the maximum possibility of surviving the unexpected. At the WEISSACH R&D Center, samples of all Porsche models are crash tested at high speed. The result? The passenger compartment remains intact. This is due to a 3-zone body design with controlled crash zones and a rigid passenger structure. At the factory, you can see how careful engineering contributes to greater passive safety. Anti-corrosion protection assures unibody strength. The torque tube design, that's part of the transaxle system, acts as a spine to transfer the force of an impact away from the passenger compartment. Proof of Porsche's anti-corrosion protection stands in front of the WEISSACH R&D Center. This 1975 Targa body has been sitting here for over 13 years in all kinds of weather, with no additional protection other than that applied at the factory in 1975. Imagine how long a 1989 body, with all the improvements and refinements that Porsche has developed since the mid-70s, would last. Does well into the next century sound fair? Porsche's exceptional body quality assurance is based on more than 40 years' experience building the highest quality bodies. Quality you can see, feel, and hear. Look at the superb paint. Feel the way the doors fit. Listen to the solid whump of a closing door. By the way, to lighten the 928, Porsche engineers used aluminum doors, hood, and front fenders. Ask your prospect if he can find where the steel and aluminum meet. That's another example of Porsche quality. Need some more examples? How about Porsche's 26-step paint process to protect and beautify every Porsche? Porsche keeps its paint in constant motion through 130 feet of piping for the best uniformity. Each 928 assembly station allows 30 minutes to do a flawless job in an industry where the norm is a continually moving assembly line. That is Porsche quality. And there's more. The ample protective coatings and polyurethane panels to resist chipping. Check your PMRG for details. Millions of people were treated to a demonstration of the 928's solid body in a popular movie, but they probably missed it because it happened so fast. The film was Cannonball Run 2, in which a giant-tired all-terrain vehicle, a Bigfoot, drove over an early model 928. Rather than crushing the car as expected, the roof and hood were merely dented. As the camera moved on to another scene, a perplexed stunt driver walked up to the car and found that the driver's door would still open. So he got in, closed the door firmly, started the car, and drove off. The next key point to be covered at this position is Porsche's exceptional handling capability. Porsche provides each owner with the ability to use the car's performance confidently. As powerful as Porsches are, there is always more chassis and brakes than power for safety and controllability. Optimized systems such as the lightweight, low center of gravity engines and optimized suspension systems provide very high cornering capabilities. Much has been written about Porsche handling, the standard of the industry. It's predictable, so you can use all of its capabilities with great precision. The 928 is one of the best balanced automobiles in the world today. It's balanced so well because of its transaxle design. This means the light alloy engine is front-mounted, counterbalanced by the transmission, fuel tank, and even the battery in the rear for the ideal 50-50 weight distribution. Porsche is the only automaker to offer sports cars with a front-engine rear transaxle. Porsche chose the transaxle design for high performance with great handling stability. To those who have questioned why Porsche chose a front engine for the 928 and 944 series, we can remind them of Dr. Ferry Porsche's now famous quote, "It was never my philosophy to ask where the engine should be placed, but what solution would bring the greatest gain." The engine's weight at the front of the 928, countered by the transaxle's weight at the rear, results in an ideal 50-50 weight distribution. It also results in what engineers call high polar moment of inertia. High polar moment of inertia can be demonstrated by using a barbell. With the weights at the ends of the bar, imagine the 928 going down the road like this. You see how the barbell resists turning with the weights at the ends? This resistance to turning is the polar for circular, moment of inertia for resistance. The more traditional way to achieve this 50-50 weight distribution is to move the engine behind the front wheels and the fuel tank in front of the rear wheels. This yields a low polar moment of inertia and a tendency to spin out easier. The benefits to the 928 S4 owner are predictable handling, high cornering forces, sure-footed traction, safety advantages of the torque tube spine. The 928 S4 rear, exceptional cruising range, unexpected utility, air management. You've heard Porsches described as exotic, sophisticated, and classic. Another way to describe Porsche, practical and convenient. Now, most people won't choose a Porsche because it's practical, but when they live with it for a while, they'll be glad it is. Remember that German businessman who put 305,000 miles on his 928 in just 3 years? How often do you think he had to fill it up? 610 times, or about once every 500 miles. Now, that's convenience and practical. In a Porsche, you could drive from Boston to Washington, D.C., or from Miami to Jacksonville, or from Los Angeles to San Francisco, and never stop for gas. If you're lucky and very good, you stumble upon something of value that's too good to pass by. A Porsche, for instance. Well, Porsche owners are lucky and sometimes good, so they need a car that can take advantage of these opportunities. All Porsches have surprising utility for a sports car. Let me tell you some interesting facts about this car. Like the fact that a 928 with the seats folded down has more cargo space than a Volvo 760 sedan. Need to use a back seat? Well, how about the fact that they fold down separately? Another fact, Porsche includes a cargo cover and a rear tool storage area. Other manufacturers talk about aerodynamics. At Porsche, we talk about air management. What is air management? It's the use of air as it flows over, under, and around the vehicle to enhance performance and safety, to cool the engine, even to keep the windows clean. Take the rear spoiler as an example. Sure, it's sexy, but that's not why Porsche engineers designed it. As Porsche added more power to the 928 S4, its top speed rose as well. The air needed to be managed in a different way here in the rear. The chin spoiler on the old 928S was upgraded to this new inverted wing. The wing, taken together with the new nose and tail, underbody pan, and side air management urethane panels, all work to optimize airflow for the S4. The optimized air management system is another example of the Porsche philosophy that form follows function. The fact that the spoiler is sexy looking, well, no one said form had to be ugly. The anecdotal selling technique we're presenting here can be used in combination with your regular features and benefits presentation. Use the feature and benefits presentation first, then reinforce the points made with a story. Or do the opposite. Tell the story, and then show the prospect the feature on the car and the benefit derived from it that the story illustrated. The 928 S4 left rear. WEISSACH engineering culture. After manufacturing quality assurance. Porsche's WEISSACH Research and Development Center, one of the world's preeminent engineering facilities. The center is home to 1 out of every 4 Porsche employees. Think about that for a moment. Do other manufacturers concentrate so much manpower where their cars are created? No way. In fact, many automakers, even some of our competitors, come to WEISSACH to get their R&D done by the best. One example of the work done here is the WEISSACH axle, or as it's more appropriately called, the WEISSACH rear suspension on the 928. Porsche's best and brightest were put to the test, a competition to see who could design a rear axle that would limit transition behavior and toe-in when cornering in a 928, giving it greater high-speed stability and more confident cornering. The winner is the Porsche customer. If you want to learn more about this ingenious detail, consult your PMRG. WEISSACH is also home to Porsche's Proving Ground. In addition to the usual assortment of curves, straightaways, and skid pads, there is the 1 mile equals 27 test road. A torturous 1 mile that is the equivalent of 27 miles of the worst roads you have ever driven on. There are hill climbs, endurance circuits, a Can-Am circuit, and an off-road course. Why, they even have duplicated the worst road in Germany here. And despite having this marvelous facility where they could test all day long and still sleep in their own beds at night, Porsche engineers insist on road trips to places like the Arctic Circle in winter and the Sahara Desert in summer. Why? To test their cars, of course. Finally, there's the small country road you take to WEISSACH, the one that Porsche engineers drive over every day to and from work. It's terrible. A rough, winding rural road. As a matter of fact, the local government wants to fix it, but Porsche has resisted. Funny thing about that road, when you drive up it, you never notice how windy or rough it is. All you notice is the fun you are having driving a Porsche on it. So far, we've seen how Porsche goes the extra mile in designing, testing, and building these fine automobiles. But what happens when the car leaves the factory? First, it doesn't leave until all factory quality checks are made. 1 in every 50 new Porsches are given a special 1,100-point quality audit. Every car undergoes a special water leak test, and every car's suspension is shaken down prior to final adjustment. Then, every Porsche is test-driven. That's right, I said every Porsche. 911s and 944s, as well as 928s. Let's join one of Porsche's quality assurance drivers as he takes a 928 for a drive. As a final factory check, to be certain each new Porsche meets every Porsche performance and quality standard, each car is driven over 20 miles, weather permitting, by a specially trained quality control test driver. On the ultra-high-speed German Autobahn, the cruise control is engaged at various speeds to check its performance. Also checked is the 928's top speed performance and high-speed handling. Exiting the Autobahn, the test driver will check all systems on the car, including the windshield washer and wipers. Handling in city traffic and on windy country roads provides another opportunity to test the mettle of this fine automobile. Returning to the factory, the driver reports on the performance of the 928. The goal? To ensure that each car is as flawless as possible. Of course, a test drive is but one of the many steps taken by Porsche to assure the quality of our cars. Consult your PMRG to learn more. Oh, there are 2 more interested parties who get involved in the quality assurance chain. We at PCNA and you at the dealership. At PCNA's pre-delivery inspection centers in Reno and Charleston, we perform a 94-point quality check on every Porsche we send to you. And we send them in covered car carriers. The final link is the dealership. We're proud to report that due to proven dealer delivery dedication, Porsche customers rated Porsche number 1 in the 1988 J.D. Power Initial Quality Survey for fewest defects. Let me point out that we're not making a model presentation here, nor are we suggesting that you tell every story to every buyer. Use those stories that fit the buying motivations you've determined your prospect has. For example, with the performance buyer, you'll want to talk about how the 928 is the highest performing Porsche, how its power is developed. Tell them about the 928's standard setting brakes, how its transaxle design and WEISSACH rear suspension lead to predictable, balanced handling. Stories about Porsche's endurance racing heritage, the TAG Turbo, and Autobahn driving will help sell this prospect. They will also be interested in Porsche's passive safety story, air management, and the WEISSACH design culture. For the image buyer, the person looking for exclusivity and luxury, your presentation should feature the best design goals, how each Porsche and especially the 928, is exclusive. Only one car in every 5,000, a 928. Tell this prospect stories that illustrate the feature they covet. For example, the oil change story shows unexpected and exclusive low maintenance. Talk about quality assembly and quality assurance, the Bigfoot story. Detail items like the tow hook, tool package, tire change gloves, and plastic storage bag can be effective. The press's continuous accolades for the 928 will appeal to their desire to have the best. Remind them of the WEISSACH engineer's goal of building not just the finest sports car, but the finest car in the world. The 928 S4 interior. Ergonomics from endurance racing. Porsche seats, the best. Sport with functional comfort. Enduring quality of materials. Porsche interiors, like everything else, are designed to optimize the driving experience while being safe and comfortable. The 928 S4 offers luxury, comfort, and convenience features not usually expected in an exotic sports car. Porsche's instrumentation shows again how thoroughly these cars are engineered, how they are designed by people who are accustomed to combining the enjoyment of driving with the concerns of safety. Notice their easy-to-read analog types. Why analog and not digital? Point out that other than the time of day, there's little need for more precise information in a sports car. Does he really need to know he's going 45.7 miles an hour, or that the RPM is 4,834? Porsche's head of design said when asked, if the instruments have to entertain you, the car probably won't. Porsche believes in simple, easy-to-read analog instruments. Flashing lights are meant to warn you to check a problem. No news is good news in this car. Porsche's unique qualifications for designing correct ergonomics, again, come from their racing experience. What could Porsche learn from endurance racing that would help when designing the interior of a luxury sports car? Plenty. Remember the Le Mans start story? Porsche races to learn and to prove the rightness of their designs. An example of ergonomics from racing is the seat. A racing seat needs to be comfortable but not soft. It needs to support a driver going very fast for a long period of time. It needs to provide feedback to the driver. Just how well does Porsche do in taking what they learned from racing and translating it to street cars? Pretty well, according to Car and Driver magazine, which selected Porsche seats as the best. When Porsche engineers discuss where they get their design goals, they often refer to the popometer. Now, what they mean is that a driver gets car feedback from his thighs, buttocks, and lower back. Due to the correct design, the whole car communicates with you through your hands, your feet, your whole body. Our key point, sport with functional comfort, is yet another example of one of Porsche's guiding criteria. Designed for comfort, but always with safety from an optimum driving environment. Some examples. Power controls, where power is the most functional solution. Windows, mirrors, door locks, seats, and the sunroof. An adjustable steering column, an instrument pod, move as a unit to allow the driver to find their optimum driving position. An air conditioning system which combines the best of both manual and automatic systems, with the rear air unit newly standard for 1989. Also new for 1989 are the one-key alarm system with LED warning lights and upgraded Blaupunkt sound system. Have your prospect feel the German leathers which surround him. The leather is but one example of the enduring quality of the materials used in every Porsche. Porsche is one of the most demanding buyers in the industry. Every vendor-supplied component is checked, and if one part in a batch fails, they all go back. Tough, you bet. Porsche has a 40-year tradition of quality and long life to live up to. We have to be tough. To end your presentation, take your prospect to the front of the car. As you do so, talk to him about value. Value is an elusive quality. Value is not simply a low price or a good deal. It is something unique, something exceptional. The Porsche crest symbolizes much that is esteemed by those who love to drive and who appreciate the finest things in life. The Porsche crest represents a very special and unique heritage of engineering innovation and racing success. Porsche, recognized for highest performing and highest quality sports cars for years. Reliable, durable, practical, for everyday use, continually demonstrating enduring quality over years of enjoyment, all leading to unsurpassed value retention and desirability as a recognized symbol of achievement. A good demonstration drive builds on a good presentation. It is your prospect's chance to experience what you have discussed. The demo drive is the time to back up your presentation with a dynamic driving experience. It is your chance to reinforce some of the key points you made during the walk-around presentation. The drive offers the opportunity to demonstrate qualities that your prospect wants to know about: power, handling, steering, and braking, as well as body chassis integrity, controls, and ergonomics. Driving a Porsche is an experience full of sensations. Unlike many of our competitors, a Porsche involves rather than insulates the driver from the driving experience. The result? Your prospect will be exposed to many sensations, special Porsche sounds, special Porsche sights, and most importantly, special Porsche feelings. Your job is to help your prospect sort out these sensations in order to fully appreciate this involvement in a Porsche. The test drive will leave an incredible overall impression. It is this sense of specialness that clinches most Porsche sales. This overall impression can be enhanced when you help your prospect understand what makes up that incredible overall impression. The best way to do this is to ask questions that get the prospect to tune into their senses in order to discover the special Porsche sensations. You will most likely have to lead them through this discovery process. For example, instead of asking, "What aromas are you smelling in this 928?" lead the customer. Ask, "How do you like that new leather smell?" Porsches offer many exciting visual experiences. During your presentation, you showed them the interior and exterior fit and finish, the small gaps around hood, doors, and hatchback. On the demonstration drive, involve them in the visual experience by helping them see the superb visibility to the front over the sloping hood, to the sides, and behind, the well-arranged gauges in their adjustable instrument pod, the lights popping up with tips lighted to show they're on. Always use leading questions to direct their attention to these sights. There are also many pleasing sounds associated with a 928 S4. Ask your prospect, "How do you like the solid thunk of the door closing?" Other sounds to assist them in observing: the silence of the car prior to starting, unique starter sound, deep authoritative rumble of exhaust, even at idle, power under acceleration as the engine moves up in the RPM. The sense of touch is another satisfying sensation, the feel of Porsche quality. You can point this out to your customer by asking them how they feel about the touch of quality in every contact with the car: door handles, controls, leather seats, everything. Other touch of quality experiences include the superb feel of the road through the Porsche steering system, the linear precision of Porsche brakes. Ask your prospect, "How do you feel about the response of the brakes to your pedal pressure?" Also ask your prospect, "How do you feel about the 928's phenomenal sense of torque? How do you feel about the car's responsiveness? Or how does it feel to drive the S4 near to the edge while maintaining control?" Whether your prospect is a first-time Porsche buyer or one who has owned many Porsches, your job is to direct their experience to tune in to these Porsche impressions, to smell, see, hear, and feel this fine automobile. We recommend you choose the demo drive route depending on the specific buying motivations you've identified in your prospect. Have one route for the performance-oriented prospect, another for the luxury comfort prospect, and perhaps different routes for different Porsche models. In setting up a performance demo route, you'll want a combination of safe opportunities to demonstrate the following: acceleration, handling, braking, solidness, precise control. This can best be accomplished using a route that combines back roads, interstate or divided limited access highway, on-off ramps, and a back street or other safe area to demo the ABS brake system. The luxury image exclusivity buyer seeks high visibility. Drive through high visibility areas, such as a mall or downtown. A fun road, but not a high performance road, is also good. Be sure to choose a place to turn the S4 over to them in public. This buyer's demo route would be most effective by taking them to places such as their club, their neighborhood, or their business. They will appreciate the 928 S4's quietness, comfort, and convenience of the car, the passenger cabin room, luggage capacity, and long cruising range. In your Porsche Marketing Reference Guide, there are additional ideas and tips for conducting a successful demonstration drive. Be sure to study it thoroughly. A good demonstration builds on a good presentation. Just as we use questions in the qualifying stage to direct our presentation, questions lead the first-hand discovery of special Porsche unique sensations during the demo drive. The key is to take advantage of the opportunity provided by the test drive to build on the emotional feelings surrounding a Porsche. Your goal is to help create, sustain, and direct the natural emotional experience so your prospect can discover a life made richer with their new Porsche. Let's review briefly the 7 walk-around positions and the 25 key points about Porsche that you will want to share with your prospect. And remember, these key points are only one part of the Porsche story. The rest of the story is told in the Porsche Marketing Reference Guide and in the 1989 Porsche Fact Book. At the profile position, we suggest 3 key points. First, every Porsche is infused with the characteristics of a champion athlete. Form and grace on the outside, power and stamina on the inside. Every Porsche also has the intangible quality that separates a true champion from the pack. The special heart and soul of a champion, which comes from Porsche's heritage. Designed from the beginning to be the best, the 928 S4 is the flagship of the Porsche line and has been consistently applauded by the automotive press as not simply the world's best sports car, but the world's finest automobile, period. Every Porsche is exclusive. The 928 S4, the most exclusive of all Porsches. Of all the cars sold in the U.S., less than 0.2% are Porsches. With only 10% of those being 928s, you can tell your prospect that only 1 in every 5,000 cars on the road will be a 928. Each Porsche has been labeled the most by the world's automotive press. In the case of the 928, the most sophisticated, highest performing Porsche of all, which translates into a practical, exotic sports car that is an exceptional value. The story of Dr. Ferry Porsche studying the first 928 prototype for hours in the rain says a lot about why the 928 is the world's best sports car. At the front, with the hood closed, you can discuss the classic lineage of every Porsche. Remind the customer that the 928 is a descendant of 2 legendary sports cars, the 356, the giant killer, and the 911, the classic race-bred Porsche. Be sure to get your prospect down low for another point of view. Also note how the 928 shares a low-sloping nose, 2x2 seating, and a fastback profile with the legendary Porsches. As you open the hood, point out the shuttered air inlets. Then let them know about the finest sports car engine on the market today, a high-performance, lightweight engine offering exceptional response and good fuel economy. The key points to cover here. First, Porsche's endurance racing heritage. Our cars are developed and proven on the racetrack. The 356, the giant killer, is but one example. Another example, the Porsche Tag Formula One engine. What the Porsche engineers learned in making that Formula One V6 was applied to improving the 928's 5-liter V8. Also talk about Porsche's uncompromised manufacturing in Zuffenhausen. As our tour of the factory showed, Porsche brings new meaning to the phrase high standards. Use the information in the PMRG, plus the tour we showed you, to create a factory tour for your prospect. Explain to them about hand-built engines that are bench-tested for 30 minutes. Show them the yellow and red triple check marks and tell them about some of those they can't see. 2 other key points. Low maintenance, high performance, and durability and reliability go hand in hand. I think that the former is summed up best by telling your prospect that a Porsche is an exotic sports car with commuter car maintenance requirements. Among those are oil changes only every 15,000 miles. Remember our vials of oil. And other routine maintenance at 30 and 60,000 miles. Durability and reliability are summed up best by the stories we tell here. The Porsche engineers running flat out without a care on the Autobahn. The 50,000-mile durability tests. The German businessman who put 305,000 miles on his 928 in 3 years. Or my favorite story, the Nardo test run, driving at top speed for 24 hours, averaging 156 miles an hour. The only problem, human error, caused the loss of a quart of oil. Oh, don't forget to point out to your prospect that our top speed is our cruising speed. When we say that every Porsche was designed for European driving conditions, everyone immediately thinks of the high-speed Autobahns. While it's true, a Porsche engineer's goal is to drive his design flat out on the Autobahn without a care, that's not the whole story. In the real world, few of us drive flat out for very long, and that's just as true in Europe. The back roads there are twisty and narrow, the city streets tight and congested. Porsches are designed to perform well in those conditions. Another thing about the real world is that accidents do happen. At Porsche, every car is designed to help you avoid accidents. Our active safety capabilities are unmatched. The combination of excellent visibility, responsive acceleration, balanced handling, and exceptional brakes offers your prospect a high margin of safety. You can describe the system's engineering on a Porsche as similar to the performance of a great symphony orchestra. The Porsche engineer, like a great orchestra leader, must make all parts of the 928 suspension system work together in a virtuoso performance. The music, the performance, is inspired. Our final key point at this position, exceptional brakes. Derived from endurance racing, Porsche 928 S4 brakes stop sure, fast, and true. They are standard setters for all other cars to try to match. We have ABS, but so do others. Ours is unique because it works even if all 4 wheels are in the air. The 924S Autobahn story brings these key points in focus in a real-world situation. Designed for European driving conditions, exceptional active safety, systems engineering, and exceptional brakes all contributed to our PCNA driver having a great story to tell rather than being a sad statistic. The flip side to active safety is passive safety, surviving the accident you cannot avoid. Porsche's front and rear crush zones, rigid passenger structure, torque tube, and unibody construction provide each owner with the maximum possibility of surviving the unavoidable accident. Most Porsche owners are married and have children. You can be sure that passive safety will be a key selling point for them. Let's stop for a moment and look at this magnificent sports car. Beautiful, isn't it? But for how long? Thanks to Porsche's exceptional body quality assurance, a long time. The 26-step paint process, the protective coatings, and the chip-resistant panels combine to assure your prospect that the car he drives out of the dealership today will look just as good years down the road. The Bigfoot story illustrates these key points. Hollywood's vain attempt to downsize a Porsche. Dr. Ferry Porsche once said when asked about engine placement, "It was never my philosophy to ask where the engine should be placed, but which solution would bring the greatest gain." He gave his engineers the clear go-ahead to design the best sports car possible. That car is the 928, with a water-cooled engine in front, counterbalanced by a rear transaxle. This transaxle design offers the exceptional handling advantages of 50-50 weight distribution, with the designed-in stability of high polar moment of inertia and the safety advantages of a steel torque tube. A gas tank filler on an exotic sports car is a spot to avoid. On a Porsche, it's a place to add value to the car by noting Porsche's exceptional cruising range. A cruising range based on excellent gas mileage times a large fuel tank capacity. Why, you could drive over 475 miles in a 928. From your dealership to, well, you provide the destination. Then ask your prospect if that kind of range would be a convenience. Anyone care to guess what his response will be? A cargo area larger than many full-size sedans, flexible 2+2 seating, and fold-down rear seats, and a full set of tools, all add up to unexpected utility. Practical justification for buying the 928. Finally, at this position, there's this inverted wing. Use it to illustrate how Porsche engineers use the flow of air over, under, and through the car to cool brakes and transmission, contribute to safety, even help keep the windows clean. The wing reduces lift, improves handling, and looks fantastic. You know what we say at Porsche. Form follows function. WEISSACH engineering culture. WEISSACH is Porsche's R&D center, home to 1 out of every 4 Porsche employees. WEISSACH is where these cars are created and developed into engineering masterpieces. It's Porsche's proving ground with the 1 mile equals 27 test track. But it's much more. It's a very special place, a place where Porsche engineers can develop and test and reject ideas. A place where ideas are nurtured, not overwhelmed by bottom-line thinking. A place where the engineers fight to keep the road they drive to work on unimproved, because, to quote them, it's a vital part of our development work at WEISSACH. Stop and think for a second about all I've told you. One message comes through loud and clear. Porsche cares deeply about the cars they make. You can be sure that that care extends to after-manufacturing quality as well. The care is expressed in the factory test drive for every car, the 1,100-point check for every 50th 928 to come off the line. And the care extends beyond Germany. At PCNA's PDI centers, every car undergoes a 94-point check before it's shipped out in a covered transport. And we at Porsche are really pleased that our customers appreciate that care. They voted Porsche #1 in the 1988 J.D. Power Initial Quality Survey. Well done. What can Porsche learn from racing that would make a better interior? When Porsche races, it's usually for a long time at high speeds. And when you drive like that, you'd better be comfortable, or you might be in trouble. Fatigue can lose a race just as easily as a blown engine. Another lesson learned. Instruments need to be large and easy to read. Analog instrumentation, not digital, is the way to go. Another example of ergonomics from endurance racing are Porsche seats. We learned so well that car and driver chose Porsche seats as the best. There's a lot more about our seats to tell your prospect. Power, lumbar, heating, sport, and Porsche's Positrol. The place to learn that information is in your PMRG and the owner's manual. And don't forget the popometer. Your thighs, buttocks, and back all provide an invaluable link in the driver's information chain. Porsche's seats encourage effortless operation of all controls for safe, high-performance driving. The 928 S4 was designed with sport but functional comfort in mind. A look around this superbly appointed cockpit proves that. But safety from an optimum driving environment was always a guiding criterion. Full power where power is a functional solution. Windows, locks, mirrors, seats. A climate control system that combines the best of both automatic and manual operations. Automatic temperature control and manual fan control. And adjustable instrument pod. Positrol memory system for seats and mirrors. And the one-key alarm system are further examples. Lastly, in the interior, you can point out the enduring quality of the materials. The German leathers, the new carpeting material. Have them touch them. Let them tell you how they feel. You can tell them that Porsche is so demanding that should one part in a batch fail our tests, the entire batch goes back to the supplier. For materials to endure, they must be the best. This is it, the final position, the place to sum it all up, the crest. You can point proudly to the crest and state that all that has gone before adds up to one inescapable conclusion. Porsche is an exceptional value. The Porsche crest symbolizes much that is esteemed by those who love driving and who appreciate the finest things in life. The crest represents our unique heritage of engineering innovation and racing success. The crest represents Porsche being recognized as the highest performing and highest quality sports car. The crest represents a car that is reliable and durable, practical in everyday use. The crest represents Porsche's enduring quality over years of enjoyment. Should your prospect still think that we ask a lot for our crest, remind them of Porsche's unsurpassed value retention. Then ask them what they would pay for something that symbolized a lifetime of achievement.